Well, pressure is mounting on Australia's Chief of Defence Forces, Angus Campbell, General Angus Campbell, to step down from his position in the wake of the Afghanistan War Crimes Report, as divided opinions ignite the veterans community. Indeed, former Army Corporal and now Federal Senator for Tasmania, Jackie Lambie, believes that General Campbell has lost the respect of the Defence Force. And Katter's Australia Party leader, Bob Katter, has joined in, calling for the dismissal of Chief of Defence Force Angus Campbell.
I think we're all pretty upset that, first of all, they haven't looked at their own leadership, which is very upsetting in itself, and what the part they did not play or did play in this, and threw those diggers straight under the bus to cover their own backsides. I think it's time for fresh blood. I think that era's over, and I think that him and some of his mates up there at the very top, it's time for my people to come through and take that leadership over.
This is a pretty big call for Major General Angus Campbell to resign. Why should he go?
No, I don't want him to resign. I want him sacked. He spat upon his own troops. I mean, the first thing, if something's gone wrong, and if I'm the boss, it's my fault.
Well, to discuss this further, I'm now joined by former Special Forces officer and voice of veterans, voice of a veteran founder, Heston Russell. Heston, how are you, mate?
Good evening, Rowan. Thanks for having me on. I'm good. How are you?
Great to see you. I think you do terrific work. Tell us what you think, Heston. Do you think that Defence Force Chief Angus Campbell should go?
Angus Campbell needs to be held accountable for what he's done. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that's to do with the Brereton report's findings, because they, again, need to be afforded due process and go through the Office of the Special Investigator. But his handling of this release, his group punishment of those all 3,000 members in the Special Forces community, and his continued actions to disregard those he is responsible to in order to appease those that are above him, is more disappointing than I can put into words, and he has indeed lost the support of the veteran community and those within the Defence Force.
Well, Heston, I argue this week in The Spectator, and I've argued it on Sky here, that Angus Campbell, by publicising the Brereton report, and Scott Morrison as well, and the Defence Minister, basically handed to our enemies, or those who would do us harm, or those who would trash the reputation of the SAS and our armed forces, handed them on a silver platter. Here you go, just trash us. And I draw the parallel with Tokyo Rose, you will be familiar with in World War II, which was used a radio program with Japanese women speaking directly to our armed forces, saying you are wrong, you are bad, you are terrible. And this is the same thing that's happened now. We've given the Chinese the opportunity from now on till eternity to damn our SAS, to tell us Australians how bad we are. In fact, Heston, give me your thoughts on that, and then I'll play you a clip in a second.
For sure. The brutal truth, Rowan, are that I am physically sick at the response of our Prime Minister, our Minister of Defence and our Chief of Defence Force in coming forth in the way that they've done, failing to demonstrate strategic leadership, failing to support the defence personnel over a report that makes claims as of 7 years ago, in the light of a strategic situation that is ever more precarious in the world we're in, from the Cold War with China through to what's going to be the post-COVID-19 world in 2021. Right here and now, we need leadership, we need to unite the Australian people, and their actions and emotive language have done nothing but demonstrate their failure in strategic leadership, and accountability has to really be shown here and now.
I would argue that, as far as the world is now concerned, that word allegation, which is so critical, has kind of been lost, and that would have been the goal of the Chinese in putting out those various tweets. Have a listen to an interview earlier today on Sky. Brett O'Halloran, who hosts the Your World show on Saturdays at 6:30. Have a listen to this exchange.
Scott Morris criticize China all the time. I mean, so does Australian media. I mean, that's why is it suddenly unacceptable for China to criticize Australia? I think it's kind of hypocritical.
Heston, I would argue our soldiers are now being used in a propaganda war. They are forever going to be damned, as I said. And for the Chinese, this is the perfect opportunity to say moral equivalence. You guys are just as bad as us, so stop lecturing us about the Uyghurs or Chinese abuse of human rights, etc. Would you agree?
Yeah, unfortunately, what our strategic leaders have done is not show leadership, but expose us, expose our flanks, and expose us on an international scale to these potential propaganda attacks and reprisals. And what we need now is just to, not pay any attention to all these opinions that are coming out, because we know how good the Australians actually are here and now. We have a force that has matured so much in the Special Forces since 2013, and we just need to focus on what needs to be done. But absolutely, it's just, again, so disappointing that we're actually here as a result of those who should be helping us to progress further, as opposed to being pulled apart by everyone with an opinion on social media.
Now, Heston, I also want to ask you about the Brereton report, seeing as it's all out there. I struggle. Presumption of innocence, as far as I'm concerned. Nobody has been convicted of anything, so as far as I'm concerned, they're all innocent until a court proves otherwise. And that presumption of innocence should be the foundation of what we believe in here. But I would question whether any of these will ever actually be prosecuted. You've been in these hellholes. How on earth can you, a decade or so later, start analysing what was going through someone's head at the time? Do you think either they will ever get a fair trial, or B, do you think that it's just one of those things that's impossible to prove?
Well, see, what we've seen is a rush to failure. We've seen our government be influenced by the media in rushing to release an inquiry, while at the same time stepping up an investigation body to take this through our legal proceedings. So, and then we've seen this inquiry opened up to the Australian public, and also, I'm sure we're going to talk about, we've seen this culture report now released. We're seeing active actions being taken to undermine our troops for actions, like you said, nearly a decade or more ago. So I'm honestly, as an Australian, so disappointed that we are at this point. I don't want to look back and get depressed. I want to look forward and move on, and just ask for everyone to really join together and support our troops, support our veterans. There is so much division going on at the moment, because behind closed doors there are gag orders preventing our veterans within the military from speaking out. I'm privileged to be able to speak here with you on behalf of so many of those with Voice of a Veteran. It's so disheartening to see what they're going through, some of those who weren't even serving in Afghanistan at the time. And I just want to, again, try and put some positivity out there and bring everyone together to progress forward and, allow the system to do what it does. And remember, we are Australians, we have a democratic system, we have the presumption of innocence, and we need to join together and support each other.
Heston, you've mentioned the great work that you do with Voice of a Veteran, mental health issues for veterans, which is fantastic, and I urge people to go and sign up and sign your petition and contribute and donate to help the struggling veterans. What are your thoughts on Labor blocking the appointment of a National Commissioner for Defence and Veterans Suicide?
Well, Rowan, thank you for touching on the key subjects that are actually really plaguing the veteran community at the moment. So, since 1991, we have lost, since 2001, when we commenced operations in Afghanistan, we have lost over 600 veterans to suicide. And while our entire strategic power in the military and the government is focusing on an inquiry that now is turning into a report, we have neglected our veteran community for so long. And I founded Voice of a Veteran in September, after being in August contemplating suicide myself, going through the current support system that is broken and does not know how to support our veterans with their loss of purpose, loss of identity. And now all we're seeing in the government and in the media at the moment is our senior military leaders and government leaders tearing at the fabrics of our identity, tearing at the purpose that we fought so hard for overseas, and so many did die in the service of this nation for as well. So the Labor blocking the National Commission, I'm actually in collaboration with the Labor Party on some of these occasions, and we don't need a National Commissioner into researching veteran suicide. What we need is a rolling National Commissioner to help grab what we need from a Royal Commission into why the Department of Veterans Affairs and Department of Defence have not actioned the dozens of reports and decades of reporting into how and why our servicemen and women are killing themselves, for a National Commissioner to then implementate those forward in a suicide prevention, because actually within the system we don't have any proactive suicide prevention measures. We simply have retrospective lag indicator suicide investigations. which just continue to pile up, and no one listens to anyone unless any of the veterans actually commit suicide. So myself and others are actually, I'm going to be attending a round table with the current interim National Commissioner for Veteran Suicide in 2 weeks, and I would encourage any veterans who want to help me in that presentation to go to voiceoftheveteran.org and send me a comment on their opinion, because there is so much that needs to be done. A Royal Commission is required to hold those accountable who haven't done so and have contributed to the death of hundreds of veterans, and a rolling National Commissioner is required to help us implement suicide prevention measures in a proactive approach.
Heston Russell, I'm sorry about those dark moments you had, but if they led to the extraordinary job you are doing now, then I would argue those dark moments were worth it. If anyone in the government is listening, you've got your rolling National Veterans Commissioner right here, and his name is Heston Russell, and he's the bloke who should get the job. Thanks, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Rowan. Really appreciate the support. And again, any Australians, please go to voiceoftheveteran.org. We need your support to make sure that we can continue to voice the truth for veterans.
Fantastic. Heston Russell, thanks so much.